So I'm Paul Jerram. I'm responsible for our image sensor design and development activities for space applications here at e2v.
And how long have you been with e2v?
Well, I joined in 1985, though I don't like to say it too loud, to be quite honest.
So you were here when Rosetta was launched?
Well, we started work on Rosetta about nearly 20 years ago, in fact. So I mean, our work on Rosetta started sort of mid-1990s, and Rosetta was launched 2004, so we worked on it a long time before that. And in fact, we finished work on Rosetta about 15 years ago.
And have you held your breath since 2004?
To be quite honest, we sort of lost interest a bit because it took so long to get there. There were a few interesting bits as it flew round. So there's a couple of dramatic things. It flew past two asteroids, Lutetia and Steam, and generated quite a lot of science as it did that. But most of the time, nothing's been happening as far as we're concerned until about January when it did the wake-up call.
While Rosetta has been on its Odyssey across space for 10 years, it's obviously been sending photographs back, film, video. How do you receive it here? Do you have a receiver, or does it go to the Rosetta HQ and then is fed back to you?
We're not involved in the details of the mission directly, so we are technology providers. We provide the sensors that go on it that take the pictures, but the pictures go back to ESA, so we download the pictures from ESA.
How have you felt first of all, the booster rocket on Philae didn't work, and then the harpoons didn't work? Did you have your hearts in your mouth, or did you think, right, we've got it right, e2v, every sensor is working?
So to some extent that's true, of course. From our point of view, everything is perfect. So everything's got there, and our sensors have all worked absolutely perfectly. So from an e2v perspective, that's good. From a personal perspective, you want the thing to work because, I mean, it's landing on a comet and it's finding out about the origins of life and water on Earth. So from a personal perspective, you definitely want it to work.
On Rosetta, you had Osiris, Navcam, Virtus, and on Philae you had Siva and Rollis. I probably haven't pronounced them the right way, but what do they all mean? What are these things effectively?
So these are all image sensors. They're all doing slightly different jobs. I can run through them if you want.
Yes, please.
So the Navcam is the navigation camera, what it says on the tin really, and that's the one that actually we've seen all the pictures from to date. It's a relatively low resolution, 1 megapixel sensor, black and white, but nearly all the pictures we've seen so far have come from the navigation camera. Osiris stands for Optical Spectroscopic and Infrared Remote Imaging System, which is a bit of a mouthful, so Osiris is better. That's probably the main science camera, and that's taking really detailed science pictures, 4 megapixels, in colour. It's doing things like putting very narrowband filters in the camera and imaging individual gases so they can see where different gases come off the surface of the comet. So Osiris is the most sophisticated camera and the most sophisticated sensor by a long way. Virtus is a spectrometer, so that's taking the spectrum from the comet, working out what it's made of, what the composition of the surface looks like. So Virtus, they've worked out initially that it was dusty on the surface rather than icy. And then on the lander, the sensors are both image sensors really. So Siva is a panoramic sensor. That's going to take pictures all round. Hopefully we'll get those very, very soon on the morning of the 13th. 6 cameras all around this lander. And Rollis is the landing camera. So that's been taking pictures as it's dropped, and one's come back from that already, the first one from about 3 kilometres up, and more will come back. And once the lander has landed on the surface, Rollis will take a really close-up picture of the surface of the planet, of the comet.
It's about as big as a planet if you compare it to Earth. There's been some photographs in the national papers showing how big that comet is.
Well, it's about the size of Mont Blanc. Yeah. So it's really quite small. It's about 5 kilometres across. So yeah, about the size of Mont Blanc.
Is it a personal triumph for yourself, or are you more modest about this?
I'm only part of a team. I mean, you know, everybody works on these things. I lead the design and development team, but lots and lots of people have made a big contribution to this. So it's, for me, I'm part of a team that did the work on this.
What does it mean for e2v? It's captured the imagination of the world. Can this only be good for your company?
Yeah, it's got to be good, hasn't it? I mean, we are involved in lots of missions that have very high profile. that everybody in the world's heard of, so things like the Hubble Space Telescope and Mars rovers. So we do a lot of things that people have heard of anyway, but the more things people hear of that we're involved in, the better. So it's got to be good for the company.
Why haven't they used camera sensors? What would you call them? Are they sensors?
Image sensors is
yeah.
fine.
Why haven't they used ones made in China or made in America? Why have they come to Waterhouse Lane, as it were, for these?
So, especially for space applications, we've got some quite unique technology, and obviously for your mobile phone cameras, they do come from China or other places. For space, the requirements are very different and quite specialised, so you need a much bigger sensor so it can gather more light, and you need much higher sensitivity. So our sensors pretty much detect 100% of the light falling on them, and they work down into the ultraviolets and up into the near infrared. So these are quite specialised sensors that are very tuned to the application.
And what may surprise people is the fact they're actually made here. They are not made abroad, they are made under licence. You make them under very top secret and guarded facilities.
So we do everything here. So we get in bits of raw silicon that have virtually no value, or raw wafer. We do the entire set of processing on those wafers and build up the semiconductor on them, and then we package and do all the testing here. So it's very, very integrated, what we do here.
Really, your bread and butter is cancer and equipment, obviously the insides, and microprocessors that keep the world flying. So this is the landing on the comet is a very small part of your work.
No, it's a significant part of our business. It's not that small. Our space business, so on the site here we have about 900 people, and of those nearly 1/3 work in space-based imaging. So actually for Chelmsford, this is really quite a big deal. A lot of our workforce here are based on this technology, and that's grown a lot over the years. So when we did Rosetta, we were probably more like around 100 people, and we've probably trebled in size since that time.
So what's the next giant leap for e2v in space?
So the two big projects we're working on at the moment, so well, we're working on several, but I'll mention two of them. So one is Plato, which is looking for planets outside our solar system. So that's huge sensors, lots and lots of them, an enormous array in space, staring at small patches of sky and looking for small dips in the brightness of stars as planets go across in front of them. And they're trying to detect planets in what they call the Goldilocks zone. So there's been other missions to detect planets, but they're mostly gas giants. Now they want to find planets, say in the Goldilocks zone, which means a zone where you can make porridge. A zone where life can exist. Okay, and that's one of the big missions, and that's huge, lots of sensors. The other big application that we're involved in is ESA's Living Planets mission. And so that's satellites looking down on Earth and monitoring the state of health of the Earth. So things like, what's the state of health of the oceans? Are they good? Are they still fertile? What's the state of health of the agriculture on land? What's pollution like on land? So that's several missions with different types of sensors, but overall that's a big deal for us.
All in all, e2v cameras could pick up the first sign of life on another planet, or the best tasting porridge that you could have.
Yeah, we certainly hope so.